Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. By now, Yudhishthira's brothers had gathered and were listening. Yudhishthira went on describing the glories of forgiveness. If there were not persons in this world who exercise forgiveness, then chaos would soon prevail. If kings and other superiors give way to anger, then the distressed people would quickly meet with ruin. If inferiors do not tolerate their superiors' admonishments, then sin will take root and destroy all of mankind. I shall now recite to you the verse spoken in ancient times by the Rishi Kashyapa. Forgiveness is virtue. Forgiveness is sacrifice. Forgiveness is the Vedas. Forgiveness is purity. Forgiveness is penance. Forgiveness is truth, piety, religion, and the very holy Narayan himself. Thus forgiveness, and through forgiveness, the universe is sustained. And by practicing forgiveness, a man can attain to everlasting regions of bliss. How then can I renounce forgiveness, O Draupadi, in which is established spirituality, truth, wisdom, and the three worlds? Both this world and the next belong to the forgiving person. Therefore, forgiveness is considered the highest virtue. Yudhishthira smiled at his wife. Bhishma, Drona, Vidura, Kripa, and the other Kuru elders, they all desire peace. Vyasadeva and the other rishis also praise peace, Panchali. Therefore, let us first strive for a peaceful settlement. If Dhritarashtra yields to temptation and does not return our kingdom, then the Bharata race will be destroyed. But let me not be the cause, O princess. Forgiveness and humility, both of which are unknown to Duryodhana, are the qualities of the self-controlled. They constitute eternal virtue. I shall therefore adopt them. Draupadi was still doubtful. If virtue conferred victory and success on a man, then how could Yudhishthira have undergone such a calamity? She's pretty smart, this one. She knows. Yudhishthira had never strayed from virtue at any time. Even during the gambling match, he acted only with virtuous intentions. But now he was cast into misfortune, and the sinful Duryodhana enjoyed prosperity. The princess said, "It seems to me, O king, that although you always protect virtue, virtue has not protected you. Even the celestials know that you live only by virtue. I am sure you would abandon me and your brothers before abandoning virtue. You serve the Brahmins with everything you possess. You never disregard your elders, equals, or even inferiors. And although you conquered the earth, you never became proud. You have performed great sacrifices and have given unlimited charity. Why, even now, while living a life of hardship in the forest, Your virtue has suffered no diminishment." Draupadi looked at her husband in the eyes as she made her point. "Despite all this, still your intelligence was perverted by destiny, and you gambled everything away. Your wealth, kingdom, brothers, even me. How could one like you, who was simple, gentle, modest, liberal, and truthful, be drawn to gambling? Gambling is a vice. I just cannot understand how it is possible." Although Draupadi understood that everything was under the control of the Supreme Lord, she felt her faith challenged by Yudhishthira's seemingly inexplicable situation. "Surely, O king, all creatures are made to act by the Lord, even as a puppet is moved by its controller. No one can pass a moment independently. God ordains our happiness and distress in accord with the results of our past actions. Everyone depends upon the Lord. He brings us together and uses us as instruments to fulfill each other's karma." So Draupadi knows. She's very learned here. "Thus it seems to me that it is the Lord who has brought about your calamity. But how has he sanctioned such injustice? Injustice so contrary to the ways of virtue and truth. If the Lord is not to blame, then it means that the controlling principle is the one who has the most power." And there's even an expression. I remember when I was going to school, there was this thing, might makes right. I don't know if you learned that in your schools, but in America, you would hear that all the time. Might makes right. That you have the power, you're the superior, and whatever you do, that's all right. So that's what Draupadi is pointing out. If actions are not bound with God-given consequences, then I lament for those who are not powerful. So now let's see. The wife has spoken, the husband will respond. Yudhishthira could see that his wife was bewildered by grief and sorrow. He said to her, "O gentle lady, born from sacrifice," because yes, she was born along with her brother from the fire sacrifice. "O gentle lady, although your speech is sweet and well articulated, it is atheistic." Wow. "No one should ever perform virtue with a desire to gain its fruits. Such a sinful trader of virtue will never reap the results. I practice virtue only because I desire to follow the Vedas and satisfy the Lord. The Vedas state that one who doubts virtue is destined to be born among the brutes, meaning the animals. One who doubts religion, virtue, and the words of the rishis is excluded from the regions of immortality and bliss. Such a person is considered lower than a thief." So when Yudhishthira here is saying that no one should perform virtue with the desire to gain its fruits, that's the mode of passion. Yudhishthira, on the other hand, shows that he's in the mode of goodness. He says, I practice virtue only because the Vedas tell me to, and I want to please the Lord. That's the mode of goodness. Draupadi bowed her head as her husband continued. "O thin-waisted lady, You have seen with your own eyes the results of virtue in such immortal sages as Markandeya, Vyasadeva, Maitreya, and the celestial sage Narada. All of these persons appear in this Mahäbhärata. All of these, all four of them appear and have dealings with the Pandavas. And Maitreya also curses Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana later. All these shining and ever blissful rishis describe virtue as the foremost duty. If the pieties practiced by the virtuous bore no fruits, then this world would long ago have been covered by darkness. No one would care to acquire knowledge or pursue liberation or even wealth. All men would have lived like beasts, and the world would be thrown into confusion. That's what's happening in this age of Kali. We see day by day, virtue is diminishing day by day. Our elected officials are proving to us day by day how they have no virtue. The lawyers, the judge, because it's Kali Yuga. Right? Everybody knows if you have to go to court and you can't pay for an attorney, goodbye. I just heard that in many states here in this country, there's a law that if you can't afford an attorney, then the state is supposed to supply you with, I forget the actual term, a court-appointed attorney. But here's the catch. These guys are so backlogged that you're not going to get them. So you don't have money? No justice. Welcome to Kali Yuga. And if you're wealthy, well, then you can be the biggest crook. But now I can afford the fancy Bel Air and Beverlywood lawyer, pay lots of money, and by his lying and twisting, the murderer, the criminal goes scot-free. Kali Yuga, folks. Let's continue. The Brahmins, who had by now also come to hear Yudhishthira's speech, nodded in agreement. Darkness had set in, and fires now burned in the great clearing where they sat. Such a nice description. You can see the forest. The fires are burning at night. Right? This is India. Your India. Right? Sun is setting just like the sun is setting now. Draupadi could hear the flames crackling as well as the sounds of crickets. That means everybody was rapt in attention to hear Yudhishthira. But in the background, crackling of the fire, the sounds of the crickets. As Yudhishthira continued, so here is the key line of Yudhishthira. Do not doubt virtue just because you do not see its results. Without doubt, the fruits will manifest in due course of time, as will the fruits of sin. The fruits of true virtue are eternal and indestructible, leading one to the highest regions of happiness. Therefore, do not speak ill of God. Try to understand the Supreme Being and His desires, O Draupadi. Always bow down to Him, God, for this will be your own good. Now, several years ago, I was asked by one of our Namahat people, and he asked me the same thing. He said, Prabhu, I work hard, I go to temple, I am a good man, but I'm barely making enough money to feed my family and pay the rent. And my neighbor, doesn't go to temple. He lies, he cheats, and he's doing so good. And then this person, maybe I should be like him. So that's why this section really hits home for me. I had not read this. So what did I say to him at that time? I said to him that, first of all, you don't know how Krishna is doing things. Kamsa was still doing his nonsense for 11 years after Krishna was born. Krishna didn't kill him right away. For 11 years, Kamsa was doing all his nonsense. Hiranyakashipu, Ravan, they were allowed to have a reign of terror for so long. So I said to him, you don't know what is God's timetable. But rest assured, your neighbor who you say is doing this, his day is coming. Don't worry. You just have to be patient. The day will come when he will get. And we've seen it. There was once, not once, but we see famous actor or actress or athlete making millions of dollars. All of a sudden, one day, broke. Everything finished. Just like that. We see it with some of these singers and actress and actor, right? There was that one guy, Christopher Reeves. He was always the Superman star. And one day, and he was king. Every movie he made, blockbuster, millions of dollars. He goes riding on a horse, falls off the horse, becomes paraplegic, and you would see him in a wheelchair. He can no longer. Here was now look at Superman, huh? That means what? His ticket was called by Yamaraj. Now you pay. So don't worry about your neighbor. Worry about yourself. Your neighbor is going to get his sooner or later. Like I always say, you can cheat the IRS, that's all right. But Yamaraj and Chitragupta, his accountant, everything is tallied. And you know, if you get stopped by the police, they have a computer in the car and they check to see, is this guy, they go by the license plate. And if you have any kind of criminal record, it prints out right there for the policeman so he knows, oh, hey, I'm dealing with such and such. It's called a rap sheet. Every criminal offense. So Yamaraj has got that, the list. But if you're a devotee, you have a different list. Prabhupada used to say that when you're a devotee, every little devotional thing that you did is written down. And nobody can touch that. Like so many people, they lost their 401ks and this and that. Nothing will happen to your bhakti account. Your name is there, and every time you chanted Hare Krishna, every time you did Arati, every time you came to Namahat program, every time you read Bhagavad Gita, it's all written down. Oh, so when time comes, oh, Sachi Sutta Vashishtha. We have a nice airplane for you. Come and go back home, back to Godhead. Everybody chant the Maha Mantra.